Do you ever feel like you could be a completely different person if you just stopped feeling so nervous around people? Like maybe you are smart, funny, thoughtful, and actually pretty interesting. But the second you have to talk to someone new, or speak up in a group, or carry a conversation a little longer than 30 seconds, something changes. Your chest gets tight. Your mind starts racing. You become hyper aware of your face, your voice, your hands, your timing, your eye contact, and suddenly, the most basic interaction feels way harder than it should. You start thinking about how you sound while you're still talking. You wonder if you're being awkward while you're in the middle of being awkward. Then later, you replay the whole thing in your head and think, why was that so hard? Why can other people just talk like it is nothing? And what makes this even more frustrating is that a lot of the time, you do know what to say. You're not blank because you have no thoughts. You're blank because you have too many. You think about whether you should say hi first, whether that joke will land, whether your voice sounded weird, whether you paused too long, whether you looked confident enough, whether that person noticed you were nervous. And by the time your brain finishes running all those background checks, the moment is gone. The conversation has moved on. Or worse, you said something tiny and safe, and now you're stuck in that stiff, shallow version of yourself that never feels natural. This shows up everywhere. It shows up when you walk into work and see a group of coworkers already talking. It shows up when someone attractive starts a conversation with you and your personality suddenly leaves your body. It shows up on first dates, in team meetings, in elevators, at birthday dinners, at networking events, at the gym, at coffee shops, and even in text messages when you stare at your phone trying to make a simple reply sound relaxed instead of weird. It shows up when you want to ask a question but do not want to look dumb, when you want to join in but do not want to interrupt, when you want to be warm but do not want to come off too eager, when you want to be confident, but you're trying so hard to be confident that you end up sounding unnatural. And here's the part I need you to hear early, because it changes everything. Being nervous around people does not mean you're bad at talking. It usually means you care a lot about how you come across. It means your brain is treating conversations like performance instead of connection. That's why people who are thoughtful, intelligent, kind, and very self-aware often feel the most nervous. They're not careless, they're overly careful. They're not disengaged, they're over-monitoring. Their mind is trying so hard to protect them from rejection, embarrassment, and judgment that it accidentally makes them less present, less relaxed, and less natural. Most people think the goal is to stop feeling nervous before they talk. That's actually where a lot of the struggle starts, because then every social interaction becomes a test. Am I calm enough now? Do I feel ready? Do I feel confident yet? And if the answer is no, you treat that feeling like a stop sign. But that's not how confident communicators operate. They don't wait for their nerves to disappear before they speak. They learn how to move with a little nervousness and still stay connected. That's a huge difference. The goal is not to become a robot who never feels awkward. The goal is to stop treating a normal human feeling like an emergency. A lot of social anxiety gets worse because you're focused on yourself in the wrong way. Not in a selfish way, in a survival way. You walk into a conversation and your attention immediately turns inward. How do I look? What do I say next? Am I making this weird? Am I being boring? Do they like me? And the more you focus on managing yourself perfectly, the less available you are to actually notice the other person. Then the conversation feels harder because now you're trying to create flow while mentally editing every word you say. That's exhausting. It's like trying to dance while looking down at your own feet the entire time. The first shift that helps more than people expect is this. Stop trying to impress people and start trying to understand them. That sounds simple, but it changes your whole nervous system in a conversation. When you are trying to impress, you are performing. When you are trying to understand, you are engaging. Performance creates pressure. Curiosity creates space. Pressure makes you freeze. Curiosity gives you something to do. Think about the difference between these two mindsets. In the first one, you are thinking, I need to sound interesting. I need to seem confident. I need to say the right thing. In the second one, you are thinking, who is this person really? What kind of energy do they have? What are they excited about? What do they mean by that? Which version of me feels honest right now? That second mindset takes the spotlight off your self-judgment and puts it on real connection. And weirdly, that is often when you start sounding more confident without forcing it. So if you tend to get nervous, here's one of the most practical things you can do. Go into conversations with a job. Not a fake personality, not a script for your whole life, just a job. Your job might be to notice one thing and comment on it. Your job might be to ask one real follow-up question. Your job might be to stay present for the first 60 seconds instead of trying to predict the next 10 minutes. Your job might be to make the other person feel a little more comfortable. That gives your brain direction. Nervousness loves a vacuum. If you walk into a conversation with no anchor, your mind will fill the space with fear. Let's make this real. Say you are at work and a coworker you do not know well is standing next to you before a meeting starts. A nervous brain says, say something good, don't be awkward, don't force it, maybe just stay quiet. A more grounded brain says, my job is just to open the door. That's it. So you say something simple like, has this week been as busy for you as it's been for me? Or, did you survive that last meeting? Or, I feel like this room is always freezing. None of those lines are magical. That's the point. Good conversation starters are usually normal. People who are comfortable socially understand that the first line does not need to be brilliant. It just needs to be easy to respond to. One of the biggest mistakes nervous people make is thinking every conversation has to start strong. It doesn't. It just has to start. Most people are not waiting for you to say something extraordinary. They're waiting for something they can respond to without effort. That's why casual conversation often sounds plain. It's built to be easy, not impressive. Nervous people often skip past easy because they think easy means boring. But easy is what creates momentum, and momentum is what creates comfort. Here's another truth most people don't realize until much later. You do not need to be naturally outgoing to be good with people. You need rhythm more than boldness. You need to know how to notice, ask, respond, and build. That's conversation. Notice something, ask about something, respond to what they said, and build a little on top of it. That rhythm matters more than being charming on command. For example, imagine you're at a friend's gathering and someone says they just moved into a new apartment. A nervous response might be, "Oh, nice," and then silence, because now you feel pressure to keep it going and your mind blanks. A more natural response is rhythm. "Oh, nice. How's the move been?" They say, "Honestly, kind of chaotic." You say, "Yeah, moving always seems worse than people expect. Are you mostly settled now or still living out of boxes?" That's not advanced social wizardry. It's just staying with the topic a little longer. People who seem easy to talk to are often doing exactly that. They're not pulling amazing lines out of nowhere. They're simply not abandoning the moment too early. Another reason people feel nervous is that they secretly believe conversation is a test of originality. It's not. It's a test of presence. You don't get points for being the most unique person in every interaction. You get trust by being easy to talk to, by being calm,
By listening, by not making everything feel like work. That's why some people are not especially funny or flashy, but everyone likes talking to them. They make interactions feel lighter, safer, simpler. They're not trying to win, they're allowing flow.
And this matters in dating too. A lot of people think attraction comes from saying the perfect thing. Usually, it comes more from emotional steadiness than verbal perfection. If you are on a date and you are trying to monitor whether you sound cool every 2 seconds, the other person feels that tension. But if you can relax into genuine curiosity, that changes the whole energy. Instead of, I hope I don't mess this up, you start operating from, let me see who this person is. Then your questions sound more natural. Your laughter is less forced. Your responses have more life in them. So instead of asking stiff interview-style questions like, what do you do for fun, in a flat voice and then panicking about what comes next, you can say, what's something you've actually been into lately? Or if they mentioned they went somewhere last weekend, you can ask, was it actually fun or one of those plans that sounded better in theory? That kind of line feels human because it gives them something to react to emotionally, not just factually. People connect faster when the conversation has some texture. Now, let's talk about something that makes nervousness worse almost instantly: trying to eliminate every pause. A lot of socially anxious people are terrified of silence, so they rush, they over-explain, they fill space too quickly. They start talking before they know what they want to say because silence feels dangerous. But calm communicators understand something nervous people often forget. A pause is not always awkward. Panic around the pause is what makes it awkward. If someone asks you a question and you take one breath before answering, that is normal. If there is a brief beat after a joke, that is normal. If you are both thinking for a second, that is normal. You do not have to rescue every quiet moment like it's a crisis. Some of the most confident communicators sound confident because they are not afraid of tiny pockets of silence. They are not rushing to prove they belong. They already act like they do. So if you want to talk to anyone without feeling as nervous, start by slowing down just enough to stop fighting the moment. Not in an exaggerated way, not in a weird, overly polished way, just enough to stop sounding like your thoughts are chasing each other. One calm sentence lands better than 3 rushed ones. One real question lands better than a stream of nervous filler. And on that note, let's talk about filler. Words like like, you know, I guess, and kind of are not evil. Everybody uses them sometimes. But when you're nervous, they often become emotional cushions. You use them because they soften the risk of speaking clearly. Instead of saying, I disagree, you say, I kind of feel like maybe that's not exactly right. Instead of saying, I'd rather not do that, you say, I don't know, maybe I'm just weird, but I kind of think I can't. Weak language is often nervousness in disguise. Most people try to fix that by forcing themselves to sound more powerful. A better approach is to become a little more direct while staying warm. So instead of, sorry, this might be stupid, but I was just kind of wondering, you say, quick question. Instead of, I don't know if this makes sense, you say, here's how I see it. Instead of, maybe we could possibly, you say, what if we try this? That is one of the fastest ways to sound more grounded. Not louder, not harder, clearer. At work, this matters a lot. People often feel nervous because professionalism feels like pressure. They think they have to sound polished all the time. But the people who come across best in meetings are usually not the ones using the fanciest language. They're the ones who are clear, calm, and concise. If your boss asks for an update, you do not need a dramatic speech. You can say, here's where things stand. We finished this part, this is still in progress, and the main issue right now is this. That kind of structure creates confidence because it gives your words a shape. A nervous mind calms down when it has a simple frame.
That's actually one of the best tools for nervous speaking in any setting. Use small frames. If you're answering a question, think point, detail, done. If you're telling a story, think setup, moment, takeaway. If you're asking for help, think problem, context, request. Nervousness gets worse when your thoughts feel loose and shapeless. Structure gives your mind something to hold.
Let's say your manager asks, "How's the client project going?" A nervous answer might sound like this. "Yeah, so I was working on it, and then yesterday I realized there were some changes from the earlier version, and I was trying to figure out which draft was final, and then I emailed them, and I'm waiting, but I think it's okay, I just need a little more time maybe." That sounds scattered because your brain is trying to think and protect you at the same time. A clearer answer sounds like this. "It's moving forward. The main thing I'm waiting on is final confirmation from the client, but once that comes in, I should be able to wrap it up quickly." Same reality, different nervous system. One sounds like you are trapped in your own head, the other sounds like you can see the situation clearly. Now, here's a surprising truth. A lot of people are not judging you nearly as much as you think. They are busy thinking about themselves. They are wondering whether they sound weird, whether they are being liked, whether they are saying too much, whether they should have dressed differently, whether their own joke landed. That does not mean nobody ever notices awkwardness. Of course they do sometimes, but most awkwardness passes quickly unless you grab it, panic, and drag it around in front of everyone. That is why one of the most powerful social skills you can build is recovery, not perfection. Recovery. If you stumble over your words, you do not have to collapse emotionally. If you forget someone's name, you do not need to act like your life is over. If a joke does not land, you do not need to explain it to death. Calm recovery is often more impressive than smooth delivery. If you trip over a sentence, you can just say, "Let me say that better." If you blank for a second, you can say, "I lost my thought for a second," and keep going. If a comment comes out awkwardly, you can say, "That sounded different in my head." Those kinds of lines work because they show self-awareness without shame. Mature confidence is not pretending you never fumble, it's knowing you can survive the fumble without falling apart. And if you're somebody who replays conversations later, I want to point something out. The replay habit makes sense. Your brain is trying to protect you from future embarrassment by studying what happened. The problem is that it often studies in a cruel way, not to learn, but to punish. It does not say, "Next time, try this." It says, "Wow, that was embarrassing. Why are you like this?" That kind of inner dialogue makes future conversations harder because now every interaction carries emotional residue from the last 10. A better post-conversation question is not, "Did I seem weird?" It is, "What did I do well, and what is one small thing I want to adjust next time?" That keeps reflection useful. Maybe you noticed that once you stopped trying to sound impressive, the conversation went better. Maybe you realize you interrupt when you're nervous. Maybe you see that you actually did fine, but your brain is exaggerating the awkward parts. That shift matters. You do not need a harsher inner critic, you need a better coach. Let's also talk about body language, because people always think this means they have to copy some alpha confidence performance. They don't. Good body language is mostly about making your body less defensive. Unclench your jaw, drop your shoulders, let your face be alive. Make eye contact in a natural way, not like a staring contest. Keep your breathing out of your throat. Plant your feet instead of fidgeting every 2 seconds. These things matter because your body is constantly sending your brain signals about whether you're safe. If your posture says emergency, your mind will believe it. One of the easiest physical resets before talking to someone is this.
exhale a little longer than usual. That's it. One slow exhale before you walk into the room, before you answer the phone, before you go up to say hi, before your turn in the meeting. It sounds almost too simple, but it helps because nervousness often rides on shallow breathing and muscular tension. A longer exhale tells your body, we are not running from danger right now.
And when you do start talking, remember that warmth beats polish more often than people think. A lot of socially anxious people are so focused on sounding correct that they forget to sound human. But people respond to warmth, a relaxed smile, a genuine, that's fair, a real, I get what you mean, a little laughter, a slightly playful tone. Those things create connection faster than perfectly edited sentences. People do not just listen to your words, they respond to how it feels to be with you. This is also why listening is such a powerful confidence tool. Not fake listening while you wait for your turn, real listening. When you actually listen, your next response becomes easier because it comes from something real that just happened. You do not have to invent a personality on the spot. You just react to what is in front of you. Someone says they had a brutal commute. You say, was it traffic or one of those train days that makes you question your life choices? Someone says they are tired. You say, long week or bad sleep? Now you're in the conversation, not outside it trying to manage it. A lot of nervous people also think they need to be on all the time, but confident communication does not mean being equally talkative in every setting. It means not making your quietness mean fear. There's a huge difference between being quiet because you're thoughtful and being quiet because you're hiding. You do not need to become the loudest person in the room. You just want the freedom to speak when you want to speak, ask when you want to ask, and join when you want to join without your nerves controlling the decision. That is a more realistic goal, not becoming some wildly extroverted version of yourself, just becoming more available, more expressed, more able to show up as you in more situations. That kind of confidence is sustainable because it's not based on acting, it's based on trust. Trust that you do not need perfect timing to be worth listening to. Trust that a simple comment can be enough. Trust that awkward moments are survivable. Trust that your presence is not a burden. And that trust grows through reps. There is no way around that. You build social confidence the same way you build any real confidence, by doing the thing in tolerable doses and letting your nervous system learn that you can handle it, not by waiting until fear disappears first. That means saying a little more than usual in the meeting, starting one small conversation at the coffee shop, asking one follow-up question instead of ending the exchange too quickly, joining the group for 5 minutes instead of avoiding it completely, sending the message instead of rewriting it 12 times. Tiny reps count. Most people do this backwards. They wait for a big breakthrough moment where they finally become fearless, and then they imagine they will act different. Real progress is usually the opposite. You act a little different while still feeling some fear, and then your brain slowly updates the story it tells about you. Oh, we can do this now. Oh, we can recover from that. Oh, we can start conversations and not die from embarrassment. That's how this changes. So the next time you're about to talk to someone and you feel that familiar wave of nerves, don't immediately turn it into a verdict about yourself. Don't tell yourself this means you're awkward, behind, socially broken, or just not one of those people who is good with others. Instead, try something much simpler and much more useful. Take one breath, relax one part of your body, give yourself one job. Start easy, stay curious, let the moment be normal. You do not need to become magnetic overnight. You do not need to be amazing with everyone. You do not need to win every conversation. You're learning how to stop abandoning yourself in social moments. You're learning how to stay present long enough for your real personality to come through. You're learning how to replace self-monitoring with connection, pressure with rhythm, and panic with recovery.
That's real growth. That's real confidence.
And the beautiful part is that people often feel the change before you do. They just experience you as easier to talk to, more grounded, more open, more clear. They do not know that inside you are still practicing. They just feel less tension from you. They feel more room. And over time, that becomes your new normal. So no, you do not have to talk to everyone like you have known them for 10 years. You do not have to become the center of the room. You do not have to stop being introverted, thoughtful, or careful. You just need to stop treating every conversation like a threat and start treating it like what it really is, a moment between two human beings who are both probably a lot less perfect and a lot more nervous than they look. If this is something you have struggled with for a long time, I want you to know that nothing is wrong with you. You are not too awkward. You are not too late. You are not stuck this way. You can become someone who feels calmer, clearer, and more natural around people, not because you become fake, because you become less afraid of being real. And the next time you catch yourself thinking, I don't know how to talk to people, I want you to replace it with something more honest. I'm learning how to stay calm long enough to let myself connect. That is a very different story, and it leads to a very different life. If this helped you, stick around, because this channel is all about becoming more confident, more clear, and more natural in real-life conversations without turning into someone you are not.
Please subscribe.